sektor pariwisata di Pulau Dewata, Bali terus pulih dari dampak pandemi Covid-19 dan tercatat wisatawan mancanegara juga mulai kembali berkunjung ke Bali sejak Februari tahun ini dan setelah ditangguhkan selama lebih dari 2 tahun akibat pandemi. Pemulihan pariwisata dan perekonomiannya di Bali juga berjalan lebih cepat karena Bali terpilih menjadi tempat pelaksanaan beberapa pertemuan internasional. Salah satunya adalah konferensi presidensi G20 pada bulan November mendatang. Lalu peluang apa yang dapat diraih di tengah pemulihan ekonomi Bali saat ini? Insight akan membahasnya bersama saya, Desi Anwar.
Pandemi Covid-19 membuat banyak pelaku bisnis mulai beradaptasi dan mencari jalan untuk terus mengembangkan bisnisnya. Salah satunya di Bali, banyak pelaku bisnis memanfaatkan platform digital untuk menjangkau pasar yang lebih luas. Perubahan pola aktivitas di masyarakat ini tentu menjadi salah satu pendorong digitalisasi di hampir semua sektor, tak terkecuali sektor bisnis properti. Kebangkitan ekonomi digital memaksa pebisnis meninggalkan praktik lama dan mengadopsi yang baru. Diungkapkan Menteri Koordinator Bidang Perekonomian Airlangga Hartarto, industri properti kian bertransformasi menjadi salah satu sektor tumpuan bagi perekonomian nasional dalam menyumbang multiplier effect baik dari sisi forward linkage maupun backward linkage bagi subsektor industri pendukung lainnya. Inovasi-inovasi lewat digitalisasi pun diharapkan dapat menjadi mesin pendongkrak pemulihan ekonomi nasional.
Pandemi Covid-19 memberikan dampak pada perubahan pola aktivitas di masyarakat dan tentu ini menjadi salah satu pendorong digitalisasi di hampir semua sektor, tak terkecuali sektor bisnis properti. Pandemi Covid-19 mempercepat kebangkitan ekonomi digital dan memaksa bisnis untuk meninggalkan praktik lama dan mengadopsi yang baru. Lalu bagaimana digitalisasi dapat menjadi mesin pendongkrak pemulihan ekonomi, khususnya di Bali saat ini. Saya akan langsung membahasnya bersama seorang pebisnis properti di Bali, owner of Kibarer Property, Alban Kibarer.
Halo Desi.
Alban, apa kabar?
Baik, Ibu apa kabar?
Baik, sehat-sehat selalu. Okay, Alban, you have been living in Indonesia, in Bali. Tell us a little bit about your background, how long you've been in Indonesia. I mean, you're not Indonesian, and how
I could be.
you could be, as you look like you're Indonesian. But how, tell us a little bit about your story and how you ended up in Indonesia and having your own business.
Okay, so first, thank you very much for the invitation. And yes, about me, I arrived in Indonesia already 14 years ago.
14?
14 years. Mm-hmm. So I arrived, I was like 24. Mm-hmm. And yes, I started a business almost immediately. I was having a business in France.
At the age of 24?
Correct, yes. So now everybody knows my age. So yes, I arrived like 14 years ago and I started immediately a property business. And it was quite casual because I arrived and I didn't know what to do. And property was, real estate was already kind of booming. Mm-hmm. And I decided to build villas back then. Mm-hmm. I opened a company, I built villas, and the story started.
Mm-hmm. But what was it, first of all, why did you choose Indonesia? And why did you choose property? And why did you choose Bali? At that time, what were the sort of the push factors that got you to where you are at the moment?
It's very random, actually. I came for holiday with my family, which I attached myself. My family is supposed to come here, and I asked if I could join them because I wanted to escape a bit for holidays. And when I arrived in Bali, I really liked. It was my first time in Asia. I never been. I was traveling all around the world, but I never been to Asia. So I took this opportunity to visit Asia and started with Bali.
You live in Europe, obviously.
Yes, I was born and raised in France. And but I knew that at that moment I wanted to leave France already, so I was exploring different destinations. And when I came to Bali for the first time, I arrived. It was winter for us, and it was sunny, hot, people very nice. And the first, within the first day, I was blown away. And
Of
I was,
course.
and yeah,
The
like a lot of people.
Island of paradise.
Yeah,
Island, that's
I went
okay.
from winter to paradise, basically, and I really enjoyed the vibe. The vibe and the people. I mean, I was shocked with the people. I mean, the people make Indonesian people. I keep saying that are quite special and very nice, and they are very welcoming. And Balinese also are very welcoming. And when I say 2 weeks, after 2 weeks, I say, you know what? Maybe it can be a destination I would like to live. And I came back 3 months later. And when I came back, I bought a land, and a month later, I started to build. So I started quite fast.
Yeah, so it sounds like you fell in love with Bali.
Yes, I think I
Alban.
did.
So how was it, and how difficult was it for you, particularly as a foreigner, then to start the business, and just the kind of journey that you went through in the last 14 years? How has it been for you? Because as we know, Bali is one of the most popular tourist destinations. We get a lot of international travelers, and and there are many competitions, obviously. There are more and more, it is a tourist destination, more and more villas being built. So tell us a little bit about your challenges as well as
exactly,
how you...
sorry. It's exactly like love, like you said, with up and down. It was a lot of up and down. But when I started, I was really, I didn't think of all this journey, to be honest. I was very young. And when I started to build, I just copy-paste what was already working back then. And luckily for me, I picked a hot destination back then also was Seminyak. So in the south.
Very popular.
Yes.
By the beach.
Until now, actually, until now. But at that moment, it was really the hot destination for Bali. So I decided to invest there and to market to the people who wanted to buy and rent their villa, because this rental business is quite popular since when I started, like say 2010.
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
So when basically the people were buying villas, foreigner or Indonesian, I don't differentiate them. They just buy a villa, enjoy during their holidays, and they can rent it when they are not there. So this is where I started my business. I built villas that people could use during their holiday, and they could rent when they were not there.
So it was a good business model.
Yes, but to be fair, it was quite. I was lucky because it was not my intention. It was just the flow made it this way, and yeah, lucky enough, it worked.
And then where are you now? At least before the pandemic, how have you expanded? And did you sort of add new properties, or did you actually do things differently as you've expanded?
Yes. So the major difference from when I started and also with my competition I have today is I'm focusing on the brand. We are building our own brand because I believe more than construction or building or accommodation, the branding is also as important as the accommodation itself. And during the pandemic, my luck, if I can say, is I was building a massive resort during the pandemic, and it was quite challenging, as you can imagine. But the luck we had is because we were building villas with facilities. The few people staying in Bali could rent our accommodation, because the concept was not about my concept, but what I really believe for the future is people will go for a day not for the accommodation itself, but to have experiences. Yeah. So the way we are designing our product, so it can be a resort, apartment, or whatever, it's more about what experience we can bring to the people who are going to have holiday inside it.
Okay, well, tell me a little bit about, because obviously, because being a foreigner and having lived in Indonesia 14 years, what would you say were the sort of the main challenges when it comes to actually implementing that business? I'm sure that there are all sorts of, it's not just in Bali, but everywhere, especially when it comes to expanding a property business. What were really the main bottlenecks?
I'm not sure 1 hour will be enough.
Well, because the business climate obviously is very much important.
The main issue we have is really, I don't know if I will talk for myself, but I don't know if it's only because I'm a foreigner, but it's really the law in Indonesia, because they keep changing. So the biggest challenge, especially in property, is today is this way, tomorrow is another way, the after tomorrow is... So it's
choppy and changing.
Yes, so we have to dance on eggs, and it's quite challenging for us. Even though at the end of the day, of course we comply with the law, and even though we are doing something so-called illegal at that moment, but it was not back then. So we can always arrange with the authorities because they have an understanding of the situation. But the biggest challenge I would really say is this law, this regulation.
The regulations.
Yeah, because it might actually it's not because they have a bad regulation, it's because there is a lack and they lack of regulation. If we talk about our business, it's only in Bali that we have foreigners, for example, who are having villas and renting it. So it's difficult for the central government to create a law only for a very, very small part of Indonesia, which is very small, and it's quite small compared to the rest. So that's why we are in a loophole, and the regulation is quite grey for our industry.
I think this is something that the business climate, and particularly for investors, is something that the Indonesian government really have to take care of, to have to make things easier. And now, as we know, Indonesia, we are having the G20 presidency this year, and Bali is going to be the host, so hopefully exciting things will be happening on the island. Alban will take a little break, but we will continue this discussion. Tetaplah bersama kami, Insight with Desi Anwar akan segera kembali. Anda masih bersama Insight with Desi Anwar. Kita membahas bagaimana pandemi berdampak pada pebisnis, khususnya pebisnis properti dan pariwisata di Bali. Saya ditemani oleh owner dari Kibarer Property, Alban Kibarer. Alban, 14 years in Indonesia, particularly in Bali, and you've built quite a business, and it's a business that really relies a lot on tourism, on visitors coming to Bali, and of course taking advantage of the villas or the property that you own and have expanded. Of course, 2020, that was the year that the world stood still. We all had until now, we're just coming out of it. We had COVID-19 all over the globe, and one of the industries and one of the businesses that actually suffered greatly is obviously tourism business, no travels, lockdown, and restrictions in movement and so on. So tell us, just you who are a practitioner with all the experience of actually building the business, what was it like before? What was your business like before the pandemic, and then when the pandemic happened, and how did it impact?
So today I'm wearing two hats actually. I'm a real estate agent. I own a real estate agency in Bali, and also I have a resort, and we are running a resort. So we are actually selling, renting, and operating. So we covering everything. So before the pandemic, it was going gradually up.
The curve,
the curve was going good. There were more and more people coming to Bali, and it was quite the expansion was quite I would say, I don't have
rapid
the word.
Or
No, it was stable.
Steady.
It was steady, but it was more not focused in one area. Every area were expanding back then. And the COVID happened, and it shrink a bit because we realized at that moment that Kuta, Seminyak, Nusa Dua, Ubud were really focused on tourism, and it became a ghost town. No. So there was a switch during the COVID on certain areas like Canggu. Canggu exploded for one reason, is because a lot of expats were living in Canggu. They were living in Seminyak back then, and they moved to Canggu a few years ago. And during the pandemic, like you just mentioned, 2020, it was 55 tourists recorded coming.
55?
Yes.
My goodness, and we used to like millions.
We used to have about 6 million.
Yeah.
So it was a big shrink, and it was very, very difficult for us, as you can imagine. And a lot of people, that's why I say thank you very much for the invitation, because I think I can represent a lot of us in Bali that we really struggle. And to bring Bali up, we need to bring more exposure. So this G20 hopefully will bring also good feedback.
How did it actually impact your bottom line? What did you do to your business? Did you have to completely stop whatever it was that you were doing? Did you have to lay off people? Or most business owners or hotel owners in Bali, how did they survive? Especially since we know, like you said, it's it's you know, it's a multi-layered thing. It's
Yeah.
not just a property. It's the, you know, it's
Everything is
F&B,
related. You're totally
you know,
right.
it's a hospitality, it's a souvenirs, it's a small businesses. So how did you feel
You're totally
the
right.
impact?
When I saw something during the pandemic, the government was complaining about Bali being too much touristic destination, but in the same time, every island is not about Bali. I'm living in France. There's Corsica. There is also many islands in Malta, or they are living from tourism. There is no heavy industry, so everything is around tourism. So, like you said, the hotel you employ, you need laundry to clean your clothes. You need water supply. I mean,
food. You need everything.
Everything, and everything is related to tourism at the end of the day. So for us, it was very, very difficult. A lot of people lay off. So for my case, we were doing the construction, so we were not operating yet. So I was lucky enough that I didn't need to lay off the people, but it was most of the hotel closed down, and I think it was even more difficult when they open again. I mean, they are opening right now, and to be honest,
enough people.
they don't have enough people. I mean, we are all struggling to find new staff, and also the condition of the hotel, because of the humidity and everything. If you don't run your property for a few months, it deteriorates a lot.
Did you, obviously, you know, bottom line was very much impacted?
So
Alban? How much the average kind of business owner or property owner, especially, you know, the resort owners that completely rely on visitors or tourism
so it was
their revenue?
It switched a bit. So what happened is, of course we relied to the people who were still on the island. That was the only people we could rely on. So what happened at that moment is there was a lot of villas which were for yearly rental or monthly rental, were for daily rentals, became for monthly or yearly. So basically what happened is the price went down. There was a big drop on the price of the rental because there was no renters. But the people remaining on the island, they were making very low offer and could stay in a very big villa for a very affordable price. So in a way, it was
just to cover costs.
It was just to cover the cost. So the one who did good covers the cost.
So it was like basically survival
Exactly.
mode.
It was a survival mode for
2 years.
For 1.5 years, because the first 6 months we didn't know. So for the first 6 months we were waiting. Nobody expected it could last this long. So we were all waiting. But after the first 6 months, a lot of people realized that it might be way longer. So they started to lay off and close.
And did you change the strategy then after about a year, and you think, okay, we don't know how long this is going to last? What kind of did you sit down and said, okay, we need to come up with?
Yes, we sat down
new
immediately.
ways of surviving.
We sat down immediately because our business is selling property. So, and the way we sell property all around the world is you have a customer, he comes, he sees the property, he likes, he buys. But in this process, there was one issue: is the one cannot come. So how to sell if the customer is not coming? So we started to sell online. So basically, we were doing video, which I started this. I didn't believe people could buy a villa from overseas, but they did. It worked.
How? I mean, obviously, sometimes you need to actually go and see and inspect and whatever. This is something that you can actually do on the online.
Yes, I mean, to be honest, I still don't know, because myself, I wouldn't buy a property online. I wouldn't do that, but we did that because we were thinking that that's the only way. So, and it works. So some people, it's a matter of trust. So we have a company where we exist since already 14 years. So they knew that if they buy something with us, when they would come to Bali, it won't be a scam. So
this is where reputation matters.
Yes, I am sure the reputation matters a lot for this. But still, when we buy a property, you need to feel it somehow. And they didn't have this feeling part. But for some people, it was okay. So we could survive because of them. And we collected a lot of data because what happened during this pandemic is, since people were staying at home, we received a lot of inquiries because they could do nothing. They were staying at home, and what can I do?
And they're probably dreaming about when I'm traveling.
Exactly.
What is it? Where would I
exactly
like to
what
go?
was happening. So actually, we get a lot of customers, and we try to farm them. I mean, I don't know if it's the right word, but to grow them, because they could become a real customer when they come. But the problem is, because the border were not opening, we were always opening in 2, 3, 4 months, so we could keep them hot.
So now you have a customer base which is based online.
Yes, we have, but the problem is it lasts so long that we lost some of them on the way, because some of them, a lot of people at the beginning were still hoping to come to Bali, but
Yeah,
after 6 months or a year, they say, you know what?
They give up.
Yeah,
But did you
gave up.
manage to sell any property at all online?
We did.
Oh, you did?
So, yeah, we
What,
did.
in the ones or in the tens, or I mean?
We did maybe of what? We reduced from half our business. Let's say. So
But
it was not so bad. We managed to survive because we could
Okay.
still make some.
and that was possible, you know, doing all the paperwork and all the viewing
Yeah,
and
but
all the
viewing were done online by video, and the paperwork we are working with notary, I mean, and also with lawyers. So this was not the paperwork was not the issue. I mean, one of the problem is you need to be here physically, so it was a lot of power of attorney sending by post, and but yeah, I mean, since the people were doing nothing in their country, they had time.
Yeah, and I think a lot of us actually in the last couple of years, we had to change a lot of our habits. We have become a lot more dependent on technology for everything, you know, for working from home, studying from home, and shopping and everything. And of course, maybe just buying property online, of course, and at the same time, you can actually widen your market to the whole world, right? That's also the advantage of being digitally based. We've taken a little break, Alban, but we will continue after this. Tetaplah bersama kami, Insight with Desi Anwar akan segera kembali. Kembali bersama Insight with Desi Anwar. Di studio saya ditemani Alban Kibarer, owner dari Kibarer Property yang berlokasi di Bali. Kita membahas bagaimana pandemi berdampak terhadap pola bisnis dan pariwisata, khususnya di tengah pemulihan ekonomi Bali saat ini. Alban, thanks a lot for your insight and how you and your friends in Bali, you know, business owners, property sellers actually manage to survive. And of course, all of us, we actually have to start doing things, you know, online. So even that obviously includes the selling, the renting, the buying of properties online. You just told me you just came back from Europe, and this is also a good thing, because it means that the world is becoming normal. We can now start traveling. We can start to fly. And since the beginning of at least the first quarter of this year, things are beginning to ease up in the world, particularly in Indonesia. No restrictions, no more quarantines. And so how are things in Bali now?
So
I know that just from experience, you know, we still have problems with scarce flights and so on and so forth. So how are things? Getting better?
Yes, it's good. I mean, yes, I will not complain compared to last year. So of course, it's much better than last year. Basically, Bali started again when they removed the quarantine, but totally removed, because it was 7 days, 5 days, 9 days. I mean,
it was ridiculous. At some point, it was like 10 days.
It was ridiculous for one reason, not because of the length of it, it's because it kept changing. And they were sending a message that you can book a flight, today there is no quarantine, or it's 3 days, but quarantine, and you arrive, it's going to be never 9 days. It happened to some of our friends and customers, there was no quarantine, it was in 2020, and they arrived in Jakarta back then, and they put the quarantine while they were in their flight, and they ended up spending the new year in the hotel.
Yeah.
So this created a lot of fears, and a lot of people were waiting, and I was always saying the same. They need to remove the quarantine and say they will not put it again after 1 week, because if they do that, nobody will book any flight until they're sure.
Although it's because then, you know, suddenly we from Delta, and then we had the Omicron. So things were a little bit, you know, confusing. And I think it also happened, to be fair, in many countries around the world. I mean, even Taiwan now is beginning to open their quarantine, but at least there's no more quarantine, and that's making a big difference.
Yeah.
Because your market obviously is international, right? Mainly. I mean, how many percent of your? No,
it's actually it's more local. And since COVID, so it was one of your previous questions. COVID brought a lot of locals, because of course what we say is a foreigner cannot come, but the locals couldn't go also away. So what happened is there's not so many destinations for. Holiday destination. I mean, there is many, but the one who are very structured, it's Bali is the main, and a lot of locals were coming to Bali. And what happened is the big effect of this pandemic is a lot of people wants to live in Bali now. before we didn't. We have a lot of people coming for holiday, but this COVID brought this idea of
working from Bali.
I was about to say it is you can work remotely and you can work from wherever, and working from Bali is, I think,
It's
very good.
Yeah, it's
I
and
think
also
it's
very
good.
attractive, and it's
It
not
is.
that far from Indonesia. But for Bali to be a successful tourist destination, it has to be, it attracts, and it has always been attractive to international tourists. Do you still see more and more international tourists now beginning to come to Bali? Can you know,
So
is it making a visible change in the last year?
we see a big change, because the biggest amount of tourists before COVID was Chinese. There's no Chinese anymore.
Yeah.
So now
because they're all stuck.
Yes, I mean they can.
can't
I
go
think
anywhere,
I'm not even sure if they could come, but if they come, they
I
don't
think
want
they're
to
still
spend.
under lockdown. Yeah.
They are under lockdown and they cannot go. I mean, it's complicated. So
Okay.
there is no Chinese, which is not a bad thing. Not because of the Chinese people, it's because it was a low level of tourists. So it was not attracting the right Chinese, I would say. I would prefer Bali to be a high-level destination. That's a luxury destination, because
Which means more revenue, more spending in dollars.
more quality, more revenue, instead of to have a mass tourism, because it was going there. Before the COVID, it was the fear of many people, and I was one of them, is it become a mass tourism destination, and the one coming with the dollar will start to run away.
I see.
And what's going on now, it starts again it tends to go to the quality. And we see the switch of foreigner. A lot of Americans are coming, which there were not so many Americans, and a lot of Asian. Singapore, a lot of people from Singapore could come, and we see, really Dubai and Middle East. Actually, a lot of people from Middle East could come, which before we didn't have this much.
And we have, still Russians as well. I mean,
The Russian came, it's a bit funny, because they came during the pandemic, which there was no war back then, but they came because they escaped their winter. Yes, they escaped their winter. They got stuck because of the quarantine and stuff. So a lot of them decided to stay. And now, because of the war, it brings also, because Indonesia is one of the rare destinations who could welcome Russian and Ukrainian easily. Because now they don't have so many destinations.
Okay. And tell us quickly, just from an outsider's perspective, from an international tourist perspective, when you map out Bali, of course there are many different spots. There's the beach, and there's the culture, and there's also the nightlife, the surfing. There's also the mountain and the rice fields and the traditions and everything. How would you map it out, and how can you relate that with business opportunities, or with new business opportunities where you can create new activities?
So Bali, it's what I like in Bali since a long time. It's quite complete in a way, because like you just said, there's nature, beach,
it has everything.
Yes, except the snow.
Yeah.
So and basically we have different destinations. We have Nusa Dua, which is more relaxed and holiday. All-inclusive holiday makers with a big hotel and a nice beach. You have Ubud, which is the natural and the cultural capital of Bali, if I may say, which is a lot of jungle and forest and culture. It's very nice, and it's also cooler. The temperature is a bit cooler. You have Seminyak and Canggu on the west side, which is it's famous for their nightlife and for the foodies. And you have Sanur area, which is on the east side, which is more famous for the retirement. Which now we have a new trend. A lot of people from Jakarta, the young people from Jakarta, are moving to Sanur, because they realize that it accommodates them a lot in terms of quality of life, and it's quiet. You don't have the nightlife that can be disturbing that we have in Canggu right now.
And in terms of the numbers, the proportion of domestic tourism and international, do you have some kind of an idea of?
Before COVID it was 50-50.
50-50.
Before COVID, during the COVID it was the people living in Bali, and it was only locals. And now I think we come back to 50-50.
You mentioned the reason why, when we talk about Bali years ago, it used to be like the Kuta and the Seminyak, but now there are Canggus, and there are all these other parts of the beach being expanded. Can you see the kind of interest, and also in terms of property, how has the the price of property has risen. Did it actually drop during the pandemic significantly, or did it stay more or less flat? And this could also be opportunities, right?
So funny enough, it was stable. Somehow it dropped. I mean, what happened is the people who needed money, because some people, I think, all around the world were affected by their business, and Bali was one of. If they had a villa in Bali, they could cash out. So what was going on is they asked us, "Can you please just sell my villa in whatever price?" So we could make good deal during COVID, but the market itself didn't go down because people were waiting. It's like your assets. If you don't need the cash at that moment, why you will sell your asset? You keep, because we knew that Bali will come back anyway, today, tomorrow, and next year. So the people who could stay. I mean, could keep, and the one who really need to cash. So there was some good deal. But the funny part is now it's something interesting is happening right now, is because of a lot of people were renting yearly or monthly during the COVID or last year. A lot of villas were renting. The villa who used to be on the daily market now are not available. So what's happening right now is a lot of people are coming. They are interested to purchase, but there is no villa for sale because a lot of villas are rented.
I see.
So there is now the price is going up because there is really
so the demand is higher than the supply.
Much right now. I don't know how long it will last, but right now for certain area, I'm talking about Canggu, Seminyak, even Bukit. So certain area, the hot area, become very hot right now.
But as a whole, property, not just a property, but land prices keep going up in Bali, or is it becoming saturated? Or
so it is saturated. I mean, Bali is following the coast basically. So when you go from the west side. When it started in Kutai, like you said back then, Seminyak, now it's Canggu, and we already know that the next destination will be Tabanan. We already know when it's going to be next year, in 2 years or 5 years, we don't know, but Tabanan will be one of the next destinations. And same on the east part, which the east part is even more interesting. There is this big hospital, I'm sure you covered on one of your show, this big hospital, medical center they're opening in Sanur. And this will also drive a lot of people, a lot of tourists, a lot of locals on this side of Bali.
Okay, Alban, but at least beginning to pick up now, business in Bali.
Yes,
the trend is upwards.
I mean, when you compare to last year, when you compare from zero, yes, it is picking up.
Yes, and let's hope no more pandemic coming up. But at least we are.
Yes, we are on the good.
There is light at the end of the tunnel.
We see the light, definitely.
We'll take another little break. Tetaplah bersama kami. Insight with Desi Anwar akan segera kembali. Masih bersama Insight with Desi Anwar. Di studio ada Alban Kibarer, owner dari Kibarer Property di Bali. Kita membahas mengenai dampak serta peluang bisnis properti di tengah disrupsi pandemi. Khususnya di Bali saat ini, Alban, as we know that Bali will host the summit of the G20, and I think, well, if we look at the past, Bali's hosted so many international events, and if it weren't for the pandemic, it would have hosting international events, summits, conferences, all that, the business side of just having an international, Indonesia's being a presidency now of the G20. In your experience, do events like these actually bring in money, actually increase revenue in a significant way to
No, I would
business
say
owners?
it will bring awareness about Bali and Indonesia. But from my own experience, I remember 10 years ago, and I think it was a smart move. They wanted, I mean, most of the government in Southeast Asia wanted to use Bali as a hub because it's quite easy to secure. Since it's an island and it's a lot of plane, a lot of regular plane are coming. It's a place that there's a lot of accommodation, good airport, and easy to secure. So they decided, okay, let's use this island to make a lot of conferences, which I think is very, very smart. And yes, it brings some business, but we cannot count on it. What it brings the most, those conferences, is infrastructure. Because each time there's a big conference, they build a new road, or they clean up, so they have to do something. The government have to do something to host all those delegations. So it brings, I think, it's more about awareness than money.
Or maybe the impact is more sort of felt long term, because that's what infrastructure brings. But
Correct.
With the G20, the slogan is, recover together, recover stronger, but also one of the main topics of the G20 themes is actually on issues like the environment and energy transition. If I'm not mistaken, they want to make Bali sort of the hub for all things green, zero emission by 2040, all electrification of vehicles and so on and so forth. In other words, it's going to be a center for technology and innovation. Now, going back to exploring business models and opportunities, is this something that you're excited about? The fact that technology being the green hub, all things green, renewable and digital based is something that you can tap into?
I think everything matches in a way, because if you think about this ecological part, it's mostly the young people are mostly aware and want to participate. I really see this. Even not my generation, the generation lower than me.
You're still young, Alban.
Thank you. But I mean, I'm also quite ecological in my mindset, but I see the young people are really involved, because I think what they see, they don't like it. So where it's all related is because what Bali became a very hot spot for the digital nomad. And most of the digital nomad are young people. So basically, the way they are doing the business now, they always think about the ecological impact of it. And it would be very nice, I think, if Bali really become a hub for those people, because there's a lot of nationality. So everybody come with their own ideas, culture, and innovation. Yeah. And the fact that it can born in Bali would bring a very big exposure for Indonesia. And I really believe when I see the crowd now in Bali, it's a big change compared to before. It's much younger.
It's much younger, technically savvy. Like you said, they're digital nomads, but also internationally minded, and they're very open to new ideas, and they really care about the planet and the environment.
You say it better than me.
Yeah. No, but what about things like obviously new opportunities based on it? Because you mentioned one of the things that you actually did, and the pandemic forced you to do it, is sell your villa online through videos and so on and so forth. Going ahead, and also to cushion yourself and people like you when it comes to crisis. Obviously, there are lessons learned. What can you build on it, and what kind of new strategies and innovations can you come up with when it comes to?
So there is a big innovation that's it's starting right now, and we are hopefully part of it. I think we are one of the pioneers. Is you can digitalize your property. And
digitalize your property.
Yes, so it will be a big change for the whole world. Bali can be one of the window, but many people are doing the same right now. Everybody heard about this cryptocurrency, and during the COVID, a lot of people made a lot of money with the cryptocurrency. And
although now the price is kind of, it fluctuates.
But the thing is, the one who started early still made a lot of money. The one who started late, they might have lost a lot, but the one who started early still made it. So this crypto, there's a big crypto community in Bali, and I started I wanted to understand what are they doing. I'm against this philosophy of making money by doing nothing.
Yeah.
Because basically,
it's a bit like gambling.
Yes, it is completely gambling. So I'm completely against it. But because I run my business, as most of my customers and spending a lot of money were those people. So I was thinking, okay, don't be this stubborn, Alban. Try to understand what they are doing and how they are doing. And I started to study the case, and I don't know if you heard about this NFT trends.
Yeah, non-fungible token. I did an episode on that. It's a lot of things I still don't understand, and I still don't understand how it works and how it monetizes this. But how does it relate to property? I can understand with things like paintings or whatever it is that they produce NFTs.
So that's the thing. They might mislead the people because they use the painting as a money generator. So basically, we need to understand what is NFT. NFT is just a code that is unique and can belong to you. It's a digital code that can belong to you. You can give it to me. I can give to your assistant. But there's only one code. So basically what they did is say, okay, you know what, we associate this code to this painting, which they create, and whoever owns this code have this painting. It's the proof that this painting is belong to you. I will come back later to this because there will be a lot of application on this. Now coming back to properties, okay, how we can attach this code to a property? What is the relation? How we can, basically is, now if you buy a property anywhere in the world, but let's talk about Bali, you go to a notary, you select the property, all the paperwork are through the notary, you need to check if the paper are okay, if the owner is a real owner. I mean, you need to do your own due diligence. This can be avoided doing through the Web3 technology or through the blockchain technology. So basically, you do it once. You do due diligence once, which will be under an umbrella company who owns the property. And what we do is we attach this code through the property. And basically, you don't own the property, but you have all the rights of the property with you. So when you have this code, you have all the right of this property. And if you want to trade it, you don't need to sell the property. You can just trade this code, and whoever gonna have it in his wallet, what we call a wallet, all the rights belong to him. So it will be much easier to trade property. And the beauty of it is you can cut it. So if you can cut it in 10 codes. Or 20
so one
codes.
Property can have 10 codes, so 10 people can own
exactly
the
rights. They own the rights. This is where it's a bit tricky.
What does it mean though, the rights? Because like painting, for example,
it's like you are staking.
Yeah.
You are staking. It's like you are staking on the property. So the property belongs to still an entity which is legal in Indonesia. So we have our own company, so all company, and the company give you all the rights. So you can do whatever. I mean, we need to agree on all the term in front, but as soon as we agreed, all the agreement will be digitalized and will be on the blockchain. And the blockchain is all transparent. We can see the price, we can see what is your right, we can see everything.
Okay, so this is the future of
it's a big change. It's a big change because now it's like you heard about Airbnb, right?
Yes.
Are you using yourself Airbnb?
No.
No. But a lot of people are using Airbnb because
yes, absolutely. If I travel, if I go abroad,
yes, of course.
Instead of staying in a hotel, I can stay in an Airbnb.
Correct. You know, so what will happen? That's my vision of future. What will happen is, instead of paying a rent to a property that you use overseas, because I'm doing the same, you will have a market that you can buy some share of some property everywhere, and you will start to buy the property that you feel you like it, and when you go for holiday, you will go to your own property, right? By logic, you know, because, and if the properties they have 50 or 100 owners, basically only the owner can sustain the rental of the property. So you insure yourself a rental, and also instead of spending, you make money with it.
I see. Oh, interesting. It sounds, you know, very, very futuristic. I mean, we'll take a little break, Alban, but I would like to ask you more about this, and also just, you know, how we can actually increase, you know, the tourism industry in Bali and what we can do to make more people come to Bali, be more interested in coming to Bali. Jangan kemana-mana dulu, Insight with Desi Anwar akan segera kembali. Ya, Anda masih bersama Insight with Desi Anwar. Kita masih berbincang dengan Alban Kibarer, owner dari Alban Kibarer Property di Bali. It looks like the future of everything, including buying, selling, owning property, is digital. Now, just to be clear, because I know, you know, NFT is something that is trendy at the moment, and we talk about cryptocurrency, and you know, it's obviously. If you don't know anything about it, it's best not to, you know, so you really have to understand the business, right? Is this something that, or what sort of risk does it involve when we talk about, you know, NFTs linked to owning property?
So you don't need to understand what's going on. It's like, it's a new technology. I mean, the main concern is NFT is out since few years, and everybody attach a painting. And what we are doing now, we are attaching a real asset, which is, it's a bit different, because The painting, you can say today is this price, tomorrow is this price. I mean, you can say that's what, there's a lot of volatility, and that's why a lot of people make a lot of money.
But the painting, first of all, the painting is digital, right?
The property is completely digital. So,
but so the property is real.
The property is real.
So that's a big difference.
It is a big difference. So, and when we say property, we can be also businesses. That's why there will be a big change, because you can also create your own business and get investment through NFT. So you give something real.
So you say it can be property, but it can also be things like, I don't know, a boat, a plane, or
exactly, or restaurants. So basically, what we can do is it's what we are doing is you digitalize the property, you put it on the blockchain, and you can make the revenue from the real world, which is the physical world, and you can make money from the digital world, and you can double your income.
Okay, so it's a bit like a digital kind of timeshare kind of thing, or a share, you know, a bunch of you get together and say, let's buy a plane, and then
it's very interesting because there is no name on it. It doesn't exist.
Oh, so is this has anybody done this before?
No, some people are doing the state. I'm sure that I read some articles. A lot of people are, and myself, working in our garage, you know, creating this, but it doesn't exist yet.
It doesn't.
Because there is a.
So this is something completely new.
Completely new, because in Indonesia it doesn't exist. That's I can be sure, because the main issue is how to since there is no regulation, how to make it legal. Okay. Knowing that there is no regulation.
Yes, and also anything that's, you know, attached to things like cryptocurrency, there's still no regulation, there's a lot of gray areas, and this is something that, you know, a lot of people still don't know very much about. But
Indonesia made something amazing for me. It's one of the first, maybe the only country in the world that they are taxing on the trading. And instead of to go against it, because a lot of people many governments tried at the beginning, we stopped the Bitcoin, they understood they couldn't stop anything. So Indonesia, instead of to go against it, what they do is we tax and every transaction, which I find it very smart. Because the problem of the regulation of what we are doing right now is all about taxation. Because what we do is completely legal. I can sell you a contract, and as long as you pay,
and also as long as you declare it and pay your tax on it,
it's only about tax. So as long as we comply with the taxation, there is no problem at all.
So interesting. So this is a business, the future of, you know, property, and property can be anything, is actually digital.
Correct.
Okay. Let's go back to Bali again, now that, you know, recover together, recover stronger, and we hope that more and more, particularly international visitors, come to Bali. And I remember the days when the government really wants to, you know, have 12 million tourists in a year coming to Indonesia, and just feedback since that you've come back to Indonesia from Europe. Are people interested in coming to Indonesia? How well do they know about Indonesia? And what kind of, you know, how difficult is it now for international tourists to come to Indonesia? What are they complaining about?
The queue. I'm talking about Bali because Indonesia, again, is a big country. So, because I just arrived yesterday.
The queue where? At the airport?
At the airport. I arrived yesterday in Jakarta, and I was expecting to wait a long line, and I could go out in 20 minutes, so it was fantastic. But in Bali, 2 months ago, there were a lot of complaints. It was not, it was a reality. When you arrive, you have to spend 2 to 3 hours. So when you spend a long flight and you are with your kids, you don't want to spend another 3 hours. But since they are already there, the customer, they can only complain, and after they go through. But it was quite a bad advertising for a while.
Yeah, and I think the president is aware, and he's like saying, to immigration, we really have to do things to speed things up. That's one of the.
I don't know if they did it, or as long as they are aware and they are working on it. But it was a big. I mean, there was quite few challenges during this summer, because also the flight, there was an inflation of price for the flights, because all the flights were full. There's only 30 or 40% of the flights right now compared to before. So
what can Indonesia do? I mean, I know a lot of it is related to the post-pandemic growing pains, so to speak, you know, teething problems, because obviously during pandemic people got laid off, and just suddenly, you know, now everybody wants to go out there and travel. But, you know, in the future, what are the things that the government really need to fix in order to increase our tourism?
I mean, I think it's very simple, because it's a formula that is working everywhere. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. It's more flights, more direct flight, more destination.
More direct flights.
Direct flight. So if the government wants to get certain kind of people, they need to select certain kind of country or certain kind of city. So if there is we know like Zurich, there's a lot of rich people in Zurich. So if there's a direct flight from Zurich, there's more chance that you're gonna have high quality tourists that if you take somewhere, I will not say another bad city because there can be backlash, but they can decide which kind of people they want.
So more international direct flight.
Definitely, that's first. The second is the visa. They need to have appropriate visa, and when you come, it's not about free visa. Free is very good, but it doesn't mean it should be free. It's just like if you arrive, it's a very easy process, and it doesn't last too long at the airport. If you come, you just scan a code and you pay with a credit card. People don't mind to pay $30 or $40 to come, and it can also. I would believe that instead of to give free visa, it's better to put a small price, so it also decrease the low-level tourists, because if you know you have costs and this and that, they will think twice before coming to Bali.
Okay, so it's a supply and demand thing. Okay, so you make it too cheap as well. You don't want that kind of quantity. You want quality.
The government will choose.
But Bali itself, I mean, it's interesting that you mentioned now focusing on quality, because a lot of people around the world, they know Bali, they may not know Indonesia. And so what needs to be done in order to, in the future, to make Bali focuses more on quality, as opposed to, the like you said, we used to have it in Kuta, the backpackers and the.
I think
because there needs to be a change, obviously, because because tourism has a lot of carbon footprint and ecological damage and pollution, waste, and all that part of it. Now that Bali is going to be like an eco-tourist paradise, so to speak, what's the way forward?
It's a very large question. First, Bali. I see Bali growing in a way that a lot of digital people came because they could see on the social media. And I can tell you something about this Instagram. I don't know if I can say it, but Instagram, the growth of Instagram is the same as the growth of the young people coming to Bali, because a lot of people came to Bali and it's an Instagram spot. So they take picture, and because their friends see the picture, so they come again, and it grows exponentially like this. And to answer your question is, I think it should be offline. If they want to attract the right people, I think they should invite journalists or blogger or people related to tourism in Bali and show them how Bali is and what is the idea, what they want to show about Bali, what is the main target for Bali. Explain them, and those people can post and write like you are doing, and can attract good people.
And just finally, how optimistic are you that Bali will recover, and also just the tourism industry in general? This is something that you feel very optimistic about.
I am 100% optimistic. There is no question. Even during the COVID, we knew that, because Bali is unique. Bali is a brand. Bali is unique. So I have no doubt about it. The question is when. And you raise the right question, is with who also. Now I am also more optimistic because of it's those prices, the raise of prices also show that only certain kind of people can come. So I don't want to discriminate the poor people, but the way the world was going before, it's my also belief is, you're right, is everybody was traveling out of nowhere, because the ticket was so cheap, everybody could travel. And I think, no, it should be, we have so much around. I mean, being French, when I go to France, now I discover France, because before living there, I never go around. My idea was to go somewhere else, but you forget to check what is around you. And I think COVID showed this to many people. So first, instead of to travel and having a big footprint, first go around you. And I think it's working for everything. It's also for all the food, whatever we import. First check what you have. Instead of for example, we're in France, we want to eat pineapple, and you are in Indonesia and you want to eat apricot, No, first eat what is around you, and later, if you want to, you go for a day, you can enjoy the fruit or the food from someone else.
And that's the trend of future traveling, right? This is what particularly young people are looking for, experience.
It's definitely the way it's going, which is very good, because I think somehow it will reduce the carbon print.
Yeah, because sustainable tourism, that's all that we need at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, for the future. I mean, it's not even at the moment. I think it's definitely the future. And the people coming to Bali, those young people, are concerned about it. So hopefully it will lead to something good for sure.
Okay, just finally, lessons learned from the pandemic, just for you as a business person. What's the main big lesson that...
That we have to be creative.
You have to be creative.
You have to be creative, and I mean, some people will tell you we cannot put all our eggs in the same basket, but at the end of the day, who could predict the COVID 4 years ago? So the lesson learned is when you think it's not possible, it's still possible.
Okay. Alban, thank you so much for your insight. Ya, demikian Insight with Desi Anwar kali ini. Anda juga dapat menyaksikan tayangan ini di cnnindonesia.com dan di YouTube CNN Indonesia Insight with Desi Anwar. Sampai jumpa. Stay safe. Bye-bye.